Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon's relationship was one of Hollywood's most famous partnerships, built on years of professional collaboration and personal friendship. But behind the laughter and jovial moments that played out on The Tonight Show, there existed a dynamic filled with tension, contradictions, and deep, often hidden emotions. While the public saw Carson as a master of wit and charm, those who knew him best, like McMahon, saw a very different side of the late-night legend, one that was far from the confident, unflappable persona he projected on screen. Johnny Carson was a complicated man. By all accounts, he was brilliant, charismatic, and had an extraordinary sense of humor, qualities that made him the king of late-night television. However, beneath the glitzy exterior, Carson was far from the approachable, sunny personality many fans assumed. He was, in fact, a deeply introverted and private individual who often struggled with feelings of loneliness and insecurity. McMahon, who stood by Carson's side for over 30 years, was one of the few people who truly understood the man behind the jokes. As McMahon himself later explained, Johnny was not aloof as many people thought. Rather, he was simply shy, especially in social situations outside the camera's glare. Carson's difficulties with socializing were well known to those in his inner circle. He wasn't comfortable in public settings like cocktail parties, often retreating to a corner to practice magic tricks or entertain himself. McMahon once joked that Carson's least entertaining trick was making himself disappear. While Carson could charm millions of viewers every night, he was profoundly uncomfortable in settings where he couldn't control the narrative. He would sometimes perform impromptu monologues or jokes just for McMahon, sharing his private thoughts and impressions, which were rare glimpses of the man behind the persona. For McMahon, this side of Carson was a special privilege, one that many others never saw. Despite their close working relationship, Carson and McMahon's friendship wasn't always smooth. Their contrasting personalities often created friction between the two. McMahon was an extrovert, social, and gregarious, while Carson was quiet, introspective, and sometimes even cold. Carson, aware of his own limitations in social situations, once confided in McMahon that he envied his sidekick's ability to be the life of the party. "I wish I could be like you," Carson said, acknowledging McMahon's warmth and social ease. "You're so hearty, Mr. Sunshine. You're everyone's friend. It's really depressing." It's clear from McMahon's recollections that while Carson had a magnetic stage presence, he was often a lonely, tortured soul off camera. This contrast between Carson's public and private selves has been the subject of much speculation, but McMahon's insight provided a rare understanding of the complexity of their friendship. McMahon was one of the few people who truly saw Carson as he was, not just as the late-night host millions adored, but as a man struggling with deep personal issues. The two men spent countless hours together, sharing laughs and bonding over their mutual love of comedy. They were a perfect comedic duo, with McMahon's enthusiastic laughter and support complementing Carson's sharp wit and dry humor. But this dynamic only worked because they balanced each other out. McMahon was Carson's foil. Where Carson was reserved and introspective, McMahon was outgoing and loud. Offstage, however, they were worlds apart. While they got along famously on screen, their personal lives and temperaments kept them from truly connecting in the way many would assume from watching their flawless on-air partnership.
If you suffer from daily pain, you need to hear this. It is no secret that Big Pharma isn't interested in your relief. They want you hooked on pain pills forever. And they're profiting billions in the process. But now, a natural pain solution has taken hold throughout the United States. That solution is named Canoladine, and it may be your ticket to a life without pain. Chances are you've already heard someone talking about Canoladine, as it has changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of Americans. Over 2 million bottles were shipped last year alone. Why is it so popular? This drug-free innovation has been studied for 14 years, and it gives you pain pill level of relief without side effects, grogginess, or risk of addiction. No synthetic pills, no injections, and no expensive doctor visits. In fact, it is 1/10 the cost of traditional pain management. Scientists are calling Canoladine nature's morphine, and it's the only substance ever proven to activate your body's natural pain molecules, the very same ones upon which pain meds are designed. And until midnight, you can try Canoladine risk-free for 90 days for just $1 per day. No subscriptions, no gimmicks, just honest and powerful relief. Remember, authentic Canoladine is only produced by one company in the world, GDR Labs, and every bottle is small batch manufactured in Atlanta, Georgia. Thousands have vocalized their success with Canoladine. You could be next. But hurry, due to demand, this special pricing expires at midnight tonight. To try Canoladine for less than $1 per day, go to www.trycono.com/facts or click the link below this video. Break free from Big Pharma. You have nothing to lose but your pain.
Despite these differences, Carson and McMahon had an enduring friendship that lasted until Carson's death in 2005.
Audiences up past their bedtime for decades, bringing together the best and the quirkiest entertainers. Now people from around the country are mourning the death of Johnny Carson. His nephew tells CNN he passed away early Sunday from emphysema. Carson hosted The Tonight Show from 1962 until 1992, and after he left, he stayed mostly out of the limelight. He was awarded the Medal of Freedom a few months after his last show, and the following year, he was given the Kennedy Center Honors Lifetime Achievement Award. We're going to have a look back at Carson's long and eventful career a little later in the show.
McMahon later revealed that he was one of the few people who could get Carson to relax and show his true self, something that made their relationship unique. Carson, for all his fame and success, was often filled with self-doubt, and McMahon was a steady presence in his life, someone he could rely on. Their friendship wasn't always perfect, but it was genuine, rooted in a mutual respect for each other's talents and the bond they had built over decades of working together. Their relationship also reflected the complex nature of the entertainment industry, where public personas often clash with private realities. McMahon, who was beloved for his outgoing, larger-than-life personality, saw Carson not just as a colleague, but as a deeply misunderstood individual, a man who could be both brilliant and profoundly lonely.
In an industry where careers are sometimes as short as half a TV season, Johnny Carson's staying power and popularity were the stuff of legends. Johnny Carson died on Sunday at the age of 79. Sabila Vargas takes a look back at his lengthy and colorful career.
Here's Johnny!
For 3 full decades, he was the reigning king of late night. His cool and understated attitude and his impeccable comic timing entertained audiences of all ages through both the good and bad times. Johnny Carson was a master at his craft, and he always showed a great respect for the thing that made him a household name.
I'm sticking up for television because I think it's a marvelous, marvelous medium, and I'm optimistic about it. Of course, as you probably know, an optimist in the entertainment business is an accordion player with a beeper.
Johnny Carson was born October 23, 1925 in Croning, Iowa. He moved to Norfolk, Nebraska as a boy, where he bought his first mail order magic set and began his career as an entertainer. He was known as the Great Carsoni and later performed in the Navy. And after graduating from the University of Nebraska, went on to work at Omaha radio station.
In his book, Here's Johnny, McMahon debunked the myth that Carson was cold and aloof, instead shedding light on the personal side of Carson few ever saw. He was, McMahon explained, a man who was uncomfortable in the spotlight in his private life, a man who found solace in the company of just a few trusted friends, McMahon among them. The lasting legacy of their friendship is evident in the bond they shared and the way McMahon supported Carson, not just on screen, but in life. McMahon was there for Carson when no one else was, witnessing the highs and lows of Carson's career, including the difficult times when Carson was deeply unhappy. As McMahon reflected on their time together, he made it clear that Carson's persona was only one facet of the man. What many didn't understand was that Carson, despite his fame and success, was a man struggling with his own demons, a man who, at times, wished he could be more like his gregarious, easygoing sidekick. Their partnership may have been built on contrasts, but it was their differences that made it so compelling. Carson needed McMahon's outgoing nature, just as McMahon appreciated Carson's quick wit and brilliance. Their friendship, despite the ups and downs, remained strong until the end. McMahon, for his part, continued to speak fondly of Carson, recalling their time together with humor and affection. In his own way, Carson had always been grateful for McMahon's loyalty, and McMahon, who had seen Carson at his most vulnerable, understood him in a way few others could. The relationship between Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon was far from simple. It was a complex, multifaceted friendship that revealed the very human sides of two larger-than-life figures. Their story isn't just about the jokes and performances, but about the deep bond that kept them close even when their personalities didn't always align. In many ways, McMahon was the person who truly understood Carson, and their friendship remains one of the most iconic and poignant in television history.